Today's lesson is lesson number 6, which is I can write variable expressions from written expressions and written expressions from verbal expressions. So we're going to go from written to verbal and vice versa. So we're going to go back and forth between the two. So can you write a math problem or can you interpret a word problem? And so to start off today, we have some keywords that we're looking for. The nice thing is you guys already did this on that pink sheet that was words into math. So you already have a lot of these different answers that you're going to copy down. So I want you to get that sheet out and write down words that mean addition, words that mean subtraction, words that mean multiplication, and words that mean division. You should have at least 3 for each box. Then come back and compare against this video. So looking at mine, I have addition, add, sum, or increase by, subtraction, difference, decrease by, minus or less, multiplication, our big one here is the word product, times or twice, and division, the big one here is quotient, per or divided by. And then just remember that when we talk about some vocabulary words, when we're writing a division problem, it's the dividend first divided by the divisor. If it's in the box, it's dividend and then the divisor, which would be this one. In a fraction form, it's dividend on top and divisor on the bottom. So there are 2 ways we can express a division problem. The first way is with our division sign. So we could say A divided by B. But once we get to 6th grade, we don't generally use a division symbol anymore. We use a fraction. Okay, first number always goes on top. Second number always goes on the bottom. So it would be A divided by B. Sometimes we might read it as A over B, but no, that's really a division symbol. And so now the question we need to answer is stated here. Write each expression 2 ways using our division symbol and our fraction. First number always goes top or first. Okay, so 12 divided by 4. I know that's 12, division symbol 4. We could also say 12 over 4 or 12 divided by 4. B, 3 divided by 5. 3, division symbol 5, or 3 over 5. That's 3 divided by 5, or 3/5. C, A divided by 4. A divided by 4. The quotient of 6 and M. Remember, quotient means to divide. First number is going to come first. So it's 6 divided by M. Or we can say 6 divided by M with a fraction. And last, 7 divided by the quantity x plus y. Now, if you have out your pink words into math sheet, you know that the quantity implies parentheses. So we're going to put parentheses around everything after that, and we have another word in here, plus. So it's 7 divided by parenthesis x plus y. If I make it a fraction, 7 over parenthesis x plus y. Now, the nice thing is we need to know about the word quantity in this case. And why we need to know that is because when we think about order of operations, we want to make sure I do x plus y first before I divide. So those parentheses do matter in letter E. Now for these next few examples, we're going to be given a written expression or sentence, and we have to turn it into a math problem. The first one says 6 more than twice a number. And here we really want to use that cubes method that we rely on to talk about what operations do these words mean. I know the word more means plus. And on your sheet, we have a phrase, we know that more than, this than is one of those special words that turns the problem around. Now, twice means 2 times. And then a number I don't know what that number is, and so we're going to use a variable. So if I was going to make this a math problem, 6 more than turns things around. So it's going to be something plus 6. The other part of my problem is going to go first. Twice a number goes in that first blank. Twice means 2 times. I don't know my number, so I use a variable, and I'm going to use x. Now notice for times I put a little dot in the middle. We don't use an x now for multiplication, and we technically don't even need to put the dot there. A number and a variable put together implies they're being multiplied. So our best answer is 2x plus 6. Our next one reads 3 less is minus, and we also once again have that word than turns the problem around. So 3 less than, the sum plus, but the sum of tells us parentheses around everything else. 10 and a number. So this one gets pretty complicated. It starts with 3 less than. So I know it's going to be something minus that 3. Now that something is everything that comes first. So this whole part here needs to go first. The sum of, so parentheses, 10, sum, and that number I don't know, so I use my variable. 3 less than the sum of 10 and a number. It reads 10 plus x in parentheses minus 3. And then lastly, one number. Now, I don't know what that number is, so we know it's a variable. Increased by, which is adding, the difference of. Now, because it's the blank of, difference is subtract, and we're going to put parentheses around everything else. And we're going to subtract 12, and the square means to a power of another number. This is another one I don't know, but it's not the same number necessarily. So that means I need 2 different letters. So my first number, that one number that I started with, we'll say it's x, increased by the difference of, so parentheses, 12, and, so because it's difference, it's subtract, square of another number. I don't know that other number, so I need to use a different letter. So I'm going to call it y this time, and we're going to square it. Square is using an exponent. If something is squared, it's to a power of 2, and that's where we see that right there. These are 3 very tricky problems, so if you find those really challenging, it's okay, because these are definitely advanced question. The ones that we're going to be practicing are easier. Now, down below it says write an expression using symbols. Using symbols means to write a math problem. So write an expression or math problem showing A divided by B without the division symbol. So I know without the division symbol, that means I'm going to have to write a fraction. And the first one goes on top, the second one goes on bottom. So it's going to be A fraction bar B. I have my math problem. The second one on there says write an expression for G divided by the quantity H plus 3. So we got to translate this into our math problem. So let's think about what we have. G divided by, I know I can use a fraction bar. All right, fraction out because it's hard to see that. The quantity is another parenthesis word. So we're going to put parentheses around H plus 3. So I'm going to have G first, then my fraction bar, parentheses, H plus 3. And because I used a fraction bar, I don't necessarily have to have parentheses. But if I would have used my division symbol, parentheses then have to be in there. So it's just helpful to put them there just so we don't forget. The quantity means parentheses. You may want to add that to your purple or your pink sheet if it's not on there right now. And then lastly today, we're going to write an expression using words. The cool thing about these problems, A through E, is there's more than one right answer because there's a lot of ways to say each of these operations. So A, I'm going to say in words, we have to spell this all out. A minus, oops, that's not how you spell it, A minus B. And there's my translation. You could have said A less B, A decreased by B, the difference of A and B. All of those would be correct. B, two letters squished together like that, two variables squished, is multiplication. There's a time symbol in there that we don't write. So we need any kind of multiplication problem. The product, which means multiply, of X and Y. C, 4FP. So 4 and F, because they're smushed together, I know there's a time symbol in there. So we could say 4 times F, then the rest of this, plus P. There's not one way of doing this. There's a lot of different correct answers you could have. D is a little tricky. I see it's subtracting, so that's good to know. Pick one of those words. So I could say the difference of, which means subtracting, the difference of D and the cube of B. When we have it to the third power, we use the word cubed. Just like before when we said squared, it was to the second power. And then last but not least, the last problem. When we get tricky problems like this, I kind of like to go phrase by phrase. So I start with the 5. So we have 5 times. Now I see parentheses with subtracting. So look at our parenthesis words. And I'm going to use the phrase, the difference of U and 10. That's going to be in a parentheses. And then that is all plus H. So sometimes when we're translating for a big complicated problem like this last one, we want to go part by part using our words.